empty glass.
And now that it's going back to New Line and it's going into a new court, and New Line has Vertigo and LeBron James has expressed interest in doing stuff, and there's all these people starting to swarm around it and start to kind of think about it. It's like, I think fans are very uneasy about it. And why not? Like, why not elect a fan to go in there and be like, all right, let's not fuck this one up. How about that? Like, how about, you want one film? How about three? Let's talk about story. And if they don't want me to direct it, they don't want me to helm it, I could just pen it out and be like, here's your arc. Here's what you do. Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. If you do this, you will lose all the fans. If you do this, fans will love you. And here's, and be that kind of radar and be like, well, this will appeal to this group, but you're going to lose most of the people on this subject. This is good, but this really, isn't really there. And it's not that fans need to dictate, but fans want what we want. We're your core audience. Like, let us tell you what we want to see and what we don't want to see. And if you've got something radical that you want to invent for Friday the 13th, well, guess what? Go make something original. Like, we don't want Black Christmas. We don't want a movie that's just taking the name to take advantage of the thing. We want an actual movie that pays homage to the actual film that it's being made of. And I thought that 2017 was like a Black Christmas version of Friday the 13th. It was a bastardized version that was centered around the story, but really didn't get it right either. So I'm sorry, but like, Hollywood, please listen to us and just bring us in. And like, it's that simple. It's really that simple. And if they seriously plugged me in, like right now, like, and just gave me the budget and gave me the thing, I would have 2 series and a complete trilogy ready for them in the next 2 to 3 years. And we'd have it out, and Friday the 13th fans would have something to look forward to for the next just like Halloween fans right now. They got Halloween Kills, they got Halloween Ends. They're looking forward to that. You got Chucky fans who have the new Child's Play thing that's going on with Robot Chucky. And then you got, Mancini, who gets to do his original concept and can you continue that. What was the other one that kind of got something recently too? There was another series the horror films are starting to get their own series now. Mm-hmm. So, you got Stranger Things, you got all this stuff. It can survive in both worlds. And Friday the 13th will have a presence wherever it's put. Wherever you put that hockey mask, it transcends time and space. I don't know what it is, but you put a hockey mask on something and people are going to show up. It doesn't matter what platform it is. If it's on YouTube, if it's on Netflix, if it's on Hulu, if it's on HBO Max, or if it's in the theater, people are going to show up and consume it. And then when they're done consuming it, they're going to talk about it. And they're going to buy the posters, and they're going to buy the Jasons, and they're going to buy everything that supports the film. And it's going to be a reciprocating relationship. The fans are getting what they want, and they're giving it back to the studios because they want the merchandise and they want the films, and that gives the films the ability to, 1, make money, and 2, make more content. And it's just going to be back and forth, and that's what fans want. And when you do 7, 8 Friday the 13th on an HBO series, and you got maybe 6 different Jasons, a Pamela, and a Roy, well, guess what? NECA has 8 new toys that they can make. Right. Artists out there who make a living going to trade shows and doing artwork and stuff like that, they now have 8 new designs to sketch up and put on posters and do fan art for and sell at conventions. And it just goes to helping the fan-based economy that exists in the convention circuit where most of our fans live. You know what I mean? Like, we're either going to conventions or we're living and working at conventions. And that's a lot of what the horror community is. And we need things like Friday the 13th that can be these bankable kind of entities that are going to bring people to these conventions. That's why we bring Robert Englund. That's why we bring Kane Hodder, because yes, people are coming to see Kane Hodder. They're coming to see Robert, and they're coming to see the people of the big 4, or like they're coming to see that stuff. But along the way, they're walking by mom and pop who happen to love Halloween, and love the spooky season and have their own shop where you might walk by and go, oh, that's a cool thing that you made. I'm going to get that. And you know what? Those people make a little bit more of an extra income with their side hustle, and they get to celebrate the films that they love. And so, I don't think studios are aware of this. I don't think they realize how deep in the roots of our daily lives this runs and the way they do it. I think sometimes they look at us and they feel sorry for us. They think we're weird. We think that we're weirdos when we tell them, some of the filmmakers, that Friday the 13th really helped me get through some tough times. I mean, I'm telling you, like, these alumni are like, I don't get it. I don't get you guys. Like, you guys are weird. And it's funny because, some of the alumni I've met, they meet me as a filmmaker. And so these people who starred and directed and did these films, they weren't Friday the 13th fans. It was just a paycheck and a job for them. They didn't realize these films were going to carry on for 30, 40 years. People who haven't worked in 20, 30 years are still making money at conventions because they said one line in a Friday the 13th film. You know what I mean? So they acknowledge that they don't get the fandom. And I think what has been fun for me is like giving them an example of who we are, and making them understand why we love them so much and what it is about them that like we idolize and things like that. And for me, it's been this really cool experience where I'm not meeting the character anymore. I'm meeting the person. Like meeting Tom Matthews isn't just meeting Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis, meeting Tom Matthews as the contractor, somebody who builds houses, who happened to actually build Ozzy Osbourne's house for Meet the Osbournes. Like if you actually watch some of the episodes, he's told me you can see him working in the background. Tom in the 80s left acting because he got sick of the rigmarole of auditioning and losing work, because when he wasn't acting, he was working construction. And eventually he created his own contracting company, and he builds houses all over LA, and he loves it, not for the fact of building houses, but because he's an artist. And he finds that working on houses gives him this opportunity to create this artistic freedom. And I thought that was something really cool to learn about a hero of mine, somebody who 5 years prior was at Monsterpalooza, had a table, and I literally, as a 20-year-old male, or 20-something-year-old man, could not muster up the courage to go up and talk to Tom because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I was going to say to him. You know what I mean? Like, you're my hero. Like, that's all. I just said, you're my hero, like 12 times over and over again. And when I got the opportunity to bring him in to Never Hike Alone, and Barry J had set up this meeting with us, because Barry had met him through other people and said, I'd like you to consider this. And Tom being like, okay, I guess I'll take the meeting, but it's a fan film. How good could it be? Right. Luckily, our first trailer got him in the door. And then our second trailer, which we hadn't released yet, was what showed him what we were capable of. And it was kind of cool to have that experience of like not meeting your hero as a fan, but meeting your hero as a peer. And even though I wasn't quite established, I'd at least created something that showed him, oh, you're the real deal. You know what you're doing. You're creating art. I recognize you as a director and visionary the same way that, I would recognize, and not at the same level yet, but in the same way that he would respect Dan O'Bannon for the way that he would run Return of the Living Dead. And, listening to Tom talk about his experiences on Return of the Living Dead, working with Dan O'Bannon, the excessive, rehearsal schedules that they did and the way that he brought that crew together. And it's like, every time I meet somebody in Hollywood, like Tom, even before Tom, everybody I met in animation, the stories that you hear about the way films get made and the people that stand out, or the filmmakers that stand out as successful, the type of work that they put in to be successful, and the types of things that you don't see that happens behind the scenes, those are the things that I've been paying attention and trying to implement into my own skill set for all these years. So that's what's really cool about this is now I wasn't really on the convention circuit before. I started going to Monsterpalooza out here in California when I really kind of discovered it and realized that it was there. But at the same time, Never Hike Alone was kind of coming out at that time. So my experience really has been a short time as like a fan walking around. And now I go to a lot of cons as a guest and get to meet people as kind of a colleague, because that's what I want to do. I want to film. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to do this stuff. And to get recognized as a filmmaker now after all these years of hard work, which was working in the animation industry, I was working my way up. I mean, I was working my way towards producing and all that stuff, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't in the creative world. I got creative input. I get to say creative things. I get to come up with ideas. I got writing credits on some of the films, but they were pushing me into the line producing world. And if I would have been pushed into the line producing, and I would have had that as a title on my IMDb, no one would have ever hired me for anything creative ever again, because they would have just said, oh, he's a number cruncher. He does budgets. Yeah. And so it was a decision that I really had to make at the end of 2016. I had to quit my job because I couldn't do both, and I had to pick one. And if I stuck with animation, I would have had a really cushy job. Not a cushy job. It would have been really stressful. I would have been working 14 hours a day, doing budgets, never having any creative input, but I would have been making a hell of a paycheck. It would have been great. It would have my name at the top line of the poster. It would have been perfect, but I would have had no input on the film. Wouldn't be my movie. It would be someone else's movie telling their story. At the end of the day, sitting in a room and like with my hand in my face of being like, oh my God, I can't believe this is the direction we're going. And this is so stupid. Like, I can't tell you how many times that happened to me. And it's like, hey, I mean, it's your film. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just here to write the budget, even though I could write the script a lot better. And it just got frustrated. It got so frustrating. I got sick of arguing with people online about what Friday the 13th should be. I got sick of arguing with people about work, about what those films should be and what we should do as thing. And I just got sick of it and I quit. And I just made Never Hike Alone as best as I could with as little as I had. And I expected most people to hate it. You know, I personally, there was a time when I hated it. Like, I was just like, I wanted to make a Friday the 13th all these years. This is not the Friday the 13th movie I wanted to make. And I don't think people are going to understand what I'm trying to do with this. Like, how I tried to put all this stuff together. I was really scared. I mean, I was convinced that people were going to hang me out to dry, that there were going to be swarms of people coming out and finding me and beating me. And it was just I was getting ready for nothing but negative reviews. And so when people took to it and it started to really become popular, and I got 3 reviews right away from Bloody Disgusting, Modern Horrors, and Birth Movies Death, Friday the 13th franchise, and all that stuff, and everybody was just it was more than just liking it. It was really liking it. And I was like, after you work on something for 2 years and you don't know whether it's going to be good, and you've invested all of your life, and you've gone through emotional stress, and you've been pushed to your limit and all this stuff, and to have it bounce back and be accepted was just this. I mean, I'll never forget the feeling. I'll never forget the feeling of being at Telluride Horror Show, of coming back after the screening and actually just compressing and trying to think about everything that was going on in that moment. I was just overcome with emotion. I don't know how long I cried for, but I cried for a while because I was just so emotionally, it was overwhelming. I never thought that I would ever, after years of thinking, I will never make something that everyone loves, because everything I seem to work on seems to get killed somewhere along the line and not be great. I spent 3 years working on an animated film, and it goes up and goes down, and no one even noticed it was there, and $70 million were spent and no one cares. To spend 50 of my own money and get something that's more widely recognized and better received by critics than these $70 million movies that I worked on, was just this overwhelming sense of I'm finally on the path I want to be on. I'm finally here where I want to be. I'm finally doing the thing that I want to do. But now I'm at the end of the journey. How the hell do I do this again? Or how do I get to that next stage where I want to be? Not directing fan films, but directing real films. And that's been that's kind of been my journey ever since.
Yeah. I think that right there, what you just said, is definitely a testament to, dude, just what, talking to you today and some of the other interviews I've seen, you always have this passion of the character, the films, not just the character Jason, but all the characters. You've got this love for it, and it really shows in even just a little bit of filmmaking that I've already seen, and I'm very curious to see what you've got coming up. That's all I got. But yeah,
I'll say this. I mean, you want to see these guys go at it and get their asses pounded, go look at the making of Never Hike Alone. I gained a ton more respect for what you guys were doing after watching that documentary of just how you made it and how things transpired, and just the virtual pummeling you took to get it out there.
That gash in your arm. Good Lord.
Well, I mean, it's funny because there was a version of the behind the scenes that was an hour long. And I was like, I can't have behind the scenes that's longer than my movie. So I cut half of it out. I mean, I cut out 3 different other chapters where we talked about stunts and the effects, because I was just now I'm just getting into stuff that I know people would be interested in, but it's just I just want to tell the story about how this film got made. And I think that's what this behind the scenes really has to be about. And at the end of it, I kind of felt that I wrote it. I didn't write it, but I mean, I created the directions, I directed it, I cut it, I did all that stuff. And at the end of it, I was like, okay, this told the story, but I feel like I'm just telling it from my perspective. And this is I think people want to hear my perspective, but moving forward on this type of stuff, I have to take a step back, because I don't know what this looks like from the outside. I'm at the center of the forest. I can't see the forest through the trees. And so with the upcoming Never Hike in the Snow, we're actually working on the behind the scenes right now. We got to show everybody that, like, half the cast has seen the film and some of the people still need to see it. And we want to do our interviews now, but I've stepped out of the process. I said, I don't want to be a part of the behind the scenes. I want you to interview me. I want you to ask me these questions. I want you to cover these subjects, just because these, like, it's not like subjects about me. It's subjects about different people I'm like, you got to tell this person's story and that person's story, because it's real cool stuff. Ask them about this stuff. But ultimately, Cortland Gordon, who's the main star who plays Mark Hill, he has his own channel called Oddest of the Odd, and he's a little YouTube star who's been making fan films for all these years. I really recommend Dead by Dawn, their Evil Dead fan film. They did one for Scary Stories, The Tell in the Dark. They're doing another one for Goosebumps. They're doing a Goosebumps fan film. We just did a Halloween fan film we shot in Michigan 2 weeks ago called Happy Halloween. Set in the world of 2018. I got to go out and play Michael Myers for them, which is really cool. I really like playing Myers. I've done it 3 times now.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, so Spirit of Haddonfield, The Face of Michael Myers, and then 2018, now this new one. And this is the first time as Michael, after doing it for 3 times, that I'm actually going to kill someone on screen. Because in Haddonfield, I got someone else to kill someone else because they thought it was me. And then in Face of Michael Myers, it was a prelude short because it was supposed to be a bigger film. I was supposed to kill a bunch of people in that, but I didn't get to do that. And then finally, Cortland's like, I got this idea 2018. And his friend Jimmy Champagne, who has his own YouTube channel and writes for Bloody Disgusting, was like, oh, we got this idea for like a cut scene from 2018 that could have happened between like the school and the scene where Michael ends up, getting to Laurie's house. So it was like a film that could it kind of like a couple of scenes that could have slipped into the movie and felt like a piece of it. And the difference is that it was more of it wasn't so much like a Never Hike Alone where we raised a bunch of money and we had all this planning. It was really like they had an idea and they got a bunch of people to volunteer. It was really the traditional fan film where it's like, let's get together as fans and make something with the materials that we have. And so my job over the weekend was to weather and create the Michael costume. They had already had the mask made, but we bought a brand new overall. They found the exact overalls from the film, the exact shirt that he wears underneath in the film. And my entire thing was like, you just have to make it look like I'm Michael. I know what I'm doing. Let me take care of the costuming for this, and I'll have it ready to go by the time we're shooting. And that was my thing. And they shot everything, and it was completely insane. But anyway, Cortland is doing the behind the scenes for Never Hike in the Snow. So the only thing I asked him to do was like, I need the perspective of someone who's outside. I mean, the way Cortland got involved in this was he was doing Oddest of the Odd. He had done actually you guys will probably appreciate this and you probably saw it. He did the Friday the 13th, the video game in real life movie fan film, where it's them running around and like all that stuff. So that's Cortland and his team. And so like I had saw that. I really loved it. I think I commented on it once, like, this is hilarious. Like, I love it. Cortland ended up reaching out to me saying, hey, I'm from Michigan. I'm moving to LA. I just want some tips. And so I just want to meet you and, talk about Never Hike Alone. And so we met, and I just kind of recognized a lot of the same passion. I always recognize passion right away when I see it. So I'm like, oh yeah, you got the bug too. Like, you can't help yourself. And I really enjoyed his story and what he was trying to do. And I said, all right, if I ever have anything for it, I'll let you know. And he ended up coming out and, being a PA on Pathosis. So he worked with us as we made that film. He did some of the VFX in it for the original pass, and helped us out with that. I was going to cast him as one of the kids in Disappear because I hadn't thought about I hadn't put together Never Hike in the Snow that way yet. It was actually a different story when I originally came up with it. It was about a hunter. And the whole idea was like, the joke was with the bow and arrow was that the hunter was out in the forest doing winter hunting with archery, and he overshoots his target and hits Jason. And so Jason pulls the arrow out and starts coming after him and ends up getting his bow and shooting him with it. And so it was kind of like it was more of a fun, that would have been hilarious. It would have been more of a joke, but again, it started to get that, what sounds like a funny premise and like you pitch it to your friends and you make them laugh. But when you actually think about applying it, it's like, no, people see me for Never Hike Alone. I can't write a joke film. Like, I got to write something serious. And then I curtailed it and I rewrote it and I put it in the world of Never Hike in the Snow and all that stuff as it is now. Not to say I don't have other ideas that I want to do that would be a lot of fun. Like, I have this idea to do a series of PSAs with Jason as like Smokey the Bear. And so like somebody is like lighting a forest fire in the forest. It says like no campfires, and there's somebody lighting a fire and like all this stuff. And then Jason sees them and like stomps them onto the fire like in the game. You know what I mean? And then like as Jason's killing this guy, you kind of jump back to a wide shot and Tommy just like walks into the foreground like, Jason and I don't always see eye to eye. But one thing we can agree on is that you shouldn't like light forest fires, you know, when you're not permitted. And then like
you know,
and then the more you know, and you kind of go on like little short fun things like that. Like we think that would be hilarious. I got like a whole series of those that I want to do, but I'm not going to spend the money from fans on that just yet. I'm going to make the rest of these other things. And so it's kind of cool that like, and so eventually like with Cortland, as I was putting together the casting for this and changed it, eventually I went, this would be really great if instead of it was a hunter and it was about just this kill sequence, that really was, we could change the story up, that we could have like, what happens when somebody goes missing? And what if it's a kid? What if it's a 17-year-old kid who's still in high school? You know what I mean? That's like, it's got a family. And what happens when somebody like that is at risk? And we had a little of those elements in the original Never Hike Alone script. There was a scene in the original script where you saw Kyle leaving home, and he saw his mom on the way out and kissed her goodbye. And when he's leaving that kind of confessional to her, you kind of had like met her in a way, but like we didn't have the money to kind of do that, you know, to go get a house and get somebody to act as a mom and all this. Cause it's not like you can get those elements. Like, it's not that you can't just like go assemble it, but what are you assembling? What type of pieces are you bringing together? Like, you might have a great idea, but if the pieces of your ingredients aren't good, if you have a bad actress, or if you just have your friend standing and be like, oh, just read the lines, it's going to sound like your friend reading lines. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not going to add to your film. And even though fan films should be fun, I look at them very seriously and I treat everything that I do very seriously. So I want to bring in an actual working actress that can deliver something emotive. So my idea isn't stunted by what I'm putting on screen, even though I'm already fighting against the budget issues. So how do I overcome those things and make a better product to make a fan film seem like more than a fan film? But at the core, still be a fan film, because the people I hire, even though they're good actors, they're still Friday the 13th fans. So it's a real cool thing to see that these people who are all brought together by the same passion, or they're brought by just the single passion of the fact that I'm so crazy for this stuff. And they're like, you know what, you seem like you have a thing going. Like, and actors and people in this industry like to work with people with vision and leadership and people who are going to get things done and they're going to make it look special. And I think that that's something that we kind of bring with our team, is like our little core unit has that. I bring that. I demand that from my people to have passion and like be really believe in what we do. And my producers, Kara and Kyle, they're both like right behind me, like supporting me the entire way. And my other friends out there, like Evan, who's the director of photography, who supports us and comes in and you know, works for no money at all, and like brings up all his equipment and all that stuff. So like he helps us save a ton of money and he brings so much value to it. It's like everyone's contributing something of value that's really worth, like they've gone off on their own career and created their own skill set and value with their equipment. But we're not so much paying for that when we're doing that. We're just paying a little bit for their time, but we're getting so much more value for what we're paying. Like if HBO was hiring them, it would be triple the amount or quadruple the amount of what they were doing, because they have the budget and they know it, and they know what I'm working with, and they know what I got to deal with, and they know all the free time that I give to this, not just making the movie, but the time that I have to do posting things on social media to keep us you know, up fresh with everybody. You can't get lost in the fray. Doing all the crowdfunding stuff and prepping for it and shipping it and dealing with the costs and the returns and when things go missing or when addresses change and getting the emails and all that stuff. Like, it's all unpaid time. It's all stuff that I have to volunteer. That's year round. I work 365 days on this. I never take a day off. And it's, you know, for the last 4 years, I really haven't. You know, I've taken maybe a couple little things where I'm like, I'm shutting my computer for 4 days, or I'm not doing anything. But every time I do that, I open it back up and my inbox is so full. You know, I'm just like, I wish I never took a vacation. I wish I would have just kept going through. And until I finish this venture, I mean, I really think that that's going to be my life until I get to the end of it. I mean, either I'm going to have the opportunity to finish this movie, or the fans are eventually going to go, nope. Like, you've gone out, you've jumped the shark, and we don't want any more of this. And it's, you know, it really always comes down to the fans, because I can't do this without fans. I can't do this on my own anymore. I don't have the same story of Never Hike Alone where I can go, like, I could have made a version of Never Hike Alone with no money. It just wouldn't have been as good.
Right.
And these films are coming out better because there's money invested and I know where to invest it. And so it's, you know, it's this weird kind of thing of like, I'm in the middle of that. And now having Cortland come in and do this BTS about like, what does it look like to you? Like, what does this experience, what do I look like? What does this series look like? What does Womp Stomp Films look like to other people? Because I don't have that perspective, because I was here when Womp Stomp Films had no followers and didn't even really exist. You know, I was here when I was posting on my original account, which was just Womp Stomp, which was based on a code from Star Wars Battlefront back in like the early, like late 90s for Nintendo 64, where you could type in Wampa Stompa on the game and you become the Wampa and go around and smash stormtroopers. And I just liked that code so much that I made it my internet handle for 10 years.
I was
And I was like,
curious
oh,
about that.
you know what I mean? It's like, oh, Womp Stomp, Instagram, cool. And then it was like, oh, Womp Stomp Films, whatever, that's fun. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, this is a real freaking company now. And I'm just glad that I happen to like the name. And so it's kind of like, I don't see it. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes I have to pinch myself and like reminder. It's like, remember when this was nothing and now it's this, but it like, and it's not to say, it's not to speak down to it, but it still feels the same as when it was nothing, because I don't see the aura around it. It just still is what it is. It's this little thing that's mine and that. And every now and then I bump into people and they're like, oh, and I'm like,
What?
What? I'm just me. I'm just a nerd.
Hey, as fans, I can say just keep doing what you're doing, because you've tapped into something here, and I don't see the gravy train running out anytime soon as far as support. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm absolutely fascinated with what you've given us and showing us what's coming. Even, you know, so I can't wait to see this new one on Tuesday, Never Hike in the Snow, and to see what this is about. I had one more question on the follow-up episodes of Never Hike Alone. Are these going to be in that same time frame, like 25 minutes? Are you going to go back to the hour-long length, or?
No, they'll fluctuate. So the next one will be another 25. Jason Takes Crystal Lake might be the most expensive, maybe, because the last one is shorter but has huge effects. And this one has Jason, like, so I'll just spoil it all now. Like, the body count film is Jason Takes Crystal Lake. That's when I kill like double-digit people in the movies. Like up until then, the kills are still going to be pretty small on the kill count. They're going to be short kill counts, but they're going to be so spectacular that's what I'm like. Again, like I don't have the huge cast just yet to kind of just go and murder a bunch of cannon fodder characters, because it's not the time to introduce those types of characters right now. But when you do see a death on film, it is going to echo and you're going to remember it, and it's going to be iconic. And it's either going to be iconic or it's going to shock the hell out of you and scare you. So that's kind of what my mission is with this one, is to kind of create a couple kills in this one that do something so above and beyond any kill you've ever seen in Friday the 13th that it doesn't feel cheesy, that it feels like this is, holy crap, this is brutal. And then there is one very specific thing in Never Hike in the Snow where I really wanted to create one of the scariest Friday the 13th sequences ever. And that's my challenge with this, is that the ending of the movie, when you start to build towards the ending, I really want this to be a moment where people are going, okay, I'm starting to get goosebumps and I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm really scared right now, and what's going on. And like, as it starts to build up and it kind of pays off in like the final moments of the film, and we get to kind of the finale, that people actually feel for the first time after a long time that they're not like, oh yeah, I know this scene is going to come out of that thing and blah, blah, blah. I know what's going to happen next, where you really don't know what's going to happen next. You've never been in this situation before, even though it is a situation that is realistic in the world of Friday the 13th. And the way it ends and the way it kind of plays out, and then you know that there's more coming, and you're like, oh, I just had like an actual frightening moment from Friday the 13th. I want more of this. And that's what I want to do. And so that's what I want to bring and do with the next episodes. And Jason Takes Crystal Lake is really the body count film. That's the one where Jason is in town and he's going through people left and right. Jason Takes Crystal Lake is great because it's not only a body count film because he's taking out people in town, but it's also like final chapter meets Halloween 2, because eventually it ends in the hospital. And so Jason in a hospital, murdering people in a hospital, like where there are a lot of police, there are a lot of orderlies and just people there getting stuff done. It's going to be fun. And so like for me, like I have to study and see okay, with the money that I can raise, how can I create like, kind of like Freddy versus Jason when he goes through the cornfield and he's murdering a bunch of people at the same time. Like, ooh, how can I create something like that actually feels good and visceral, and we can get a good 3 kills right in a row. But when those 3 kills come right in a row, they echo the kills that we're doing in the earlier films that are really high budget and really well thought out and really unique in the way that like they visually look after these people have been killed. Because one of the aspects of Friday the 13th are the visual kills. It's like our boy getting split in half down the waist and down the groin in part 3, or like the way Jason gets the axe head in part, or Jason gets the machete in the face. Like these are very iconic kills. And like when characters get killed, like the axe to the face, like Marcy, these are like, they're graphic. There's an image that sticks into your mind. And so with each kill that we do, we want to create that image that sticks into your mind, not just like cannon fodder stuff where you're added 12 kills in that you can't really afford good effects for, so it looks cheesy. You know what I mean? You get like you can tell where the cut mark is. You know what I mean? You can see like where the threads are around like the stuff. It's like we're trying to avoid that stuff. The typical things that we make mistakes in fan films because we don't have the money usually, or that people hadn't had the technology in the past, we have that now. And let's show how we as, low budget indie filmmakers can kind of do that. And yeah, with the coming series, it is. It's really about building up to that moment where we finally have the funding and the logistical support to pull off some of these bigger entertaining sequences. So yeah, you have 25 minutes, 35 minutes, and probably another 25 minutes at the end. And at the end of it, it's an hour and a half. You got an hour and a half there, then you're adding another 25 minutes with Never Hike in the Snow, and then you got another 54 minutes with Never Hike Alone. So after the end of the day, you've got 2.5 hours of material that make up one story. All these characters are connected around one story, and the fulcrum point in the moment is the moment where Tommy meets Kyle. And that's where really everything changes. And you could even say that like the moment changes where Kyle meets Jason, although other people have met Jason in the past and they haven't had the same experience and ability to kind of upset Jason's existence the way Kyle has. And especially after the film with the scene where Tommy and Jason and Kyle are all there, and that they're going away with Kyle knowing that Jason exists now, it changes the dynamic of Crystal Lake. And that's really the turning point. So the first episode is it's called Never Hike Again because it's Never Hike Alone again.
Right.
You're seeing Never Hike Alone, the same events, but you're seeing it all from Tommy's perspective. And Kyle will weave his way in and out of the movie still in certain scenes that you don't expect him to show up in. And there'll be some cut scenes from Never Hike Alone, not actual cut scenes from the film that we're rehashing, but actual scenes that like could have existed in between Never Hike Alone that will kind of explain a little bit more. And you'll see like when you meet these characters, you realize that they're going to meet each other type thing. And they just don't know it yet. Nice. And they don't know what they're getting into. And then when they get when it starts to unravel and it starts to it's a little bit like Back to the Future 2 in a way. Yeah. It's like, what's going on. Like, what they're building towards. They're working towards something you've seen in another movie, but there's more story points going on in Back to the Future 2 that allow it to be entertaining, where even though you're watching the same events, there's another element added on top of it. And so that's what Never Hike Again is. It's like a little bit of the same events, but there's a little bit more with Tommy. There's a couple more characters that you didn't know that were out there. And there are some events that happen afterwards. And it really kind of brings us back to that moment where Never Hike Alone gives us Kyle's perspective, Never Hike Again gives us Tommy perspective, and Jason takes Crystal Lake and takes those perspectives and puts them together and gives Jason the opportunity to go in and now have an excuse to go on a killing spree for the first time in 30 years. He's actually been motivated to leave Crystal Lake, which is something that like, it's cool. It's like giving Jason motivation, giving him purpose and drive makes him a more powerful character. Putting Kyle and Tommy together as new school and old school makes them more powerful characters because Tommy's carrying baggage and Kyle doesn't know what he's gotten involved with. And he doesn't know what's going on. And then you have the characters that are back at the hospital that are also dealing with some of this stuff. And then all of that kind of comes to a head in town. But Tommy can't end this curse at a hospital. He's got to go back to where it all started. And that's back at camp. And that's why it's called the final hike. And so they go back into the camp. They got to go to the thing. They got to get back into the camp. And they have to face Jason on that ground, and they have to try to kill him there. And Tommy has an idea of how it can get done. And what Kyle doesn't realize is that he has the answer, and he just doesn't know it. And it isn't until Tommy presents him with the knowledge that he has to realize how important that knowledge is. And they come together to basically execute this plan that Tommy has. And whether or not it works, we'll see. But
I
think
love this. I just love this.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait, and I love it. This is absolutely what we need.
Yeah, that story arc is fucking phenomenal, by the way. I can sit and listen to you talk about this all day. Like, I'm sorry I've been so quiet, because I've just been so zoomed in and I just loving your ideas.
I was going to actually ask Colonel.
Go ahead.
Colonel, you got one last question for him before we let him go?
I kind of do, just based on listening to you talk, which is going to change my final question, but I just won't state, I think you're doing a great job with these. I really hope, if it's not even the Friday the 13th, you get a legit shot at a big-time horror film, because, dude, I think you got a bright future, man.
Yeah.
I loved all your work so far. It's been great. And so then we'll get back to Never Hiking Alone in this universe. All right, I noticed the paramedic named Axel, so obviously he's pretty much the same character from Part 4.
Yeah.
As a personal question, will I see another Ethel-esque character maybe when he's in the hospital? I'm sorry.
Well, he's actually, it's funny, he's actually the descendant of 2 Friday the 13th characters, and if you look closely enough, his last name is Macaulay.
Right.
The character in Part 5 who's like he's one of the attendants at the mental asylum, Billy Macaulay. Yeah. He's kind of a scumbag, and in that movie,
Lana, that guy. Yeah.
Snow flurries up your nose. Like, he was always one of my favorite characters. So my idea is, so here's who that Axel is. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Shit.
Axel is the son of Axel and Billy Macaulay's sister, who was a nurse at the hospital, who he was also sleeping with and knocked up before he died. So that's why he's such a scumbag at that hospital, because he's banging all the nurses. And that's why, like, he's like, oh, you got the curse? And she's like, if it is, you're it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of see that he's like a promiscuous guy. So in my head, he's the product. He's the bastard child of Axel and Billy Macaulay's sister. So that's why he's so twisted. And that was the joke with his thing. And with Morgan, with the nurse, it's Denny Morgan. So Denny's my mom's name. And Morgan is Nurse Morgan from Part 4 as well. So that was where those 2 characters came from. But when I was coming up with a last name for Axel, I was like, who else is a scumbag? And I was just like, oh, this will be fun. And so there's little things that only I get and make me laugh. But when I explain it to another fan who gets it, they're like, that's cool. Like, okay, that added another layer. And
that's awesome.
Really,
I wish I would have noticed that. I just, stuck on the name Axel. She's like, Axel, and he's looking at the Playboy. I'm like,
oh, yeah. So it's only on his shirt. And, I would say that, like, that's a scene where I directed them to be like, okay, so what he's doing here is like, Never Hike Alone in kind of a conceptual way was, all right, we're making a film, but you don't know it's a Friday the 13th film till about halfway through. Like, you think you're watching an adventure movie, and then it turns into a Friday the 13th movie. And this character who's not a Friday the 13th character is going into a Friday the 13th movie. And when he wakes up from this dream, he wakes up in a dream in Friday the 13th world. Like, the characters are like the characters from the original. Like, he's in a full-fledged Friday the 13th movie. And not only is he with 2 characters that reflect Nurse Morgan and Axel, but all of a sudden the real Tommy Jarvis shows up. Mm-hmm. So that was what I was going for. But I realized after the fact that I'd spent so much time making everything else so serious that going into the cheese kind of area was a little bit of a mistake. And it wasn't so much that, like, I made the decisions I made, and I think some people like it and some people don't. But personally, now after watching it, I was like, I wish I directed the scene to be for them to be acted a little bit more seriously, take the situation a little bit more serious, and not be so 80s campy, because that was kind of like the thing. It was like he was waking up in a Friday the 13th film. But I don't think that so much without me explaining it. It's like, if you're not there to explain it to your audience and it's not so readable and gettable that they don't get it, like, don't do it. Like, do something that they're going to go to, because it felt like after I watched it, after we were done, and that was the last thing we filmed, it felt like a tone change. And I was kind of upset with it in the moment, where I was like, oh, wow, okay, all right, I'll deal with this. But, we still kind of made it good, and we tried to treat Tommy seriously. Her being like, Axel, are you okay? Like, it just, like, those are all things I was like, this is stuff stupid 80s characters were making. This is why these people are going to die so fast, because they're stupid 80s characters. I went too deep into my Friday the 13th nerddom there. I didn't really ride the train of, let me be a neutral person telling a Friday the 13th story with just more Friday the 13th knowledge. So as we go on in this stuff, so Never Hike in the Snow, there is comedy, there's stuff. I mean, every Friday the 13th has a little bit of comedy. Every horror movie has a little bit of like tension relief, but we'll never break into that world ever again. All these characters are serious. They take their job seriously. I will say that Vinny Guastafaro coming back and playing Sheriff Rick Colon is really great. And he brings an element of comedy with him just because it's Rick being a sheriff. So Rick is Rick. And there's stuff like that. And there's some comedic moments in there, but nothing that's really that's going to pull you out of the movie. I think it's like everything in the movie. There's some Friday the 13th game references in the movie. The way Jason kind of, I'll say like there's kind of a moment because I've been reviewing the score this week and without knowing it, the composer created a moment where there's almost like a stalk mode where it's like the music's going, all of a sudden like it's like Jason disappears and like all of a sudden there's no music. And it's like, oh, he's in stock mode. Like, that's where he went. Like now he doesn't know. Now you don't know where he is. Like kind of type thing. So it's kind of playing off with that type of stuff. Like, and going there. So I'm going to take this a lot more seriously as it goes forward. The camera work and everything is way higher. We're not shooting with we shot half that film with a DSLR. This one's shot with a Red Epic with an 8K sensor. We shoot in 8 and 6K. So we're able to transform and do things to the frame that you can't do when you're in standard framing. So if we mess up a shot, we can actually fix it a little bit. And because we move so fast sometimes, to get some of these things done, we have to shoot really, really fast. So we shoot things a little bit wider in some instances when there's a lot of technicality things that go on. Because I'm not Kubrick. I can't do 16 takes. You know what I mean? I'm going to lose a day. No one's going to fund me afterwards. I have to do
nothing for Kubrick. 16?
16.
Yeah, well, that was just that was just for the insert of somebody grabbing a pen. You know what I mean? So for us to do like a super technical shot, it helps us when we shoot it in 8K so the end shot at Never Hike Alone, that was done with the same camera. And so as we're tilting back or panning back and forth, we're shooting in 8K. We're shooting on like an 18 millimeter lens. So we see the entire in the original shot, we see the entire ambulance the entire time. But because we're in 8K, we can punch into this.
Right.
And I can track that frame exactly where I want it the entire time and not require us to do 15 takes. I can do it in 5 takes and be happy with it and move on knowing like, oh, you didn't do it perfect, but guess what? Everything's on screen and I'll adjust the camera later so we can do it. So we have a few shots like that in Never Hike in the Snow. And it creates cool effects. Like there's one shot in the trailer of Never Hike in the Snow where we're pulling up and kind of pulling back where the camera kind of got hit with some wind and it blew it off like the thing, but it was like the best version of it. But we were always tracked in anyway. So we were able to kind of track in and create like a digital zoom that created this cool parallax move. And sometimes we discover stuff and edit too. It's like, oh, that's cool. That makes it dynamic. Let's do that. And like kind of play with that. So, we're adding some other digital stuff in the background. We're doing some Dutch moves and things like that, which I think really kind of add to the dynamic feature of it, of like making it feel real. It's like, I just want to dust off Friday the 13th, give it a new coat of paint, pay homage to everything else, but now make it the shiny new toy that we all want it to be. And I think that Never Hike in the Snow is a better example of that than Never Hike Alone, only because we were funded from the front. We didn't get funded after the fact. We got funded before the fact. So I wasn't scratching for materials every weekend to make the film. I had what I needed, and I just needed to make sure I didn't spend too much. And I could have very easily done that if I didn't know that, like, oh, well, now I have $50,000. I can do like a whole full-length film, full-length feature film with 15 kills in it. And eventually that would have looked like kind of dog shitty. Like it just, I would have, like, I've only would have been able to spend so much per kill. I would have had, 14, 15 days on set to film, 90 minutes worth of material and not really have the materials needed to really do it right. And that's how it would have come out. That's why I'm doing these short films. And even though it looks like a lot of money, it's in the world. I mean, think about it, like $20 million to make Friday the 13th, 2009, $5 million to make a lot of these Blumhouse films, $50,000. Like, so if you're looking at 25 minutes in a Blumhouse film of like 25% of 2 minutes, that's $500,000 of a $2 million budget. So I'm doing the same 25 minutes of what that would have been in $50,000. And I'm giving you some of the stuff that's at the same level. I mean, the same effects artists that work on those Blumhouse films working on my film too. Yep. So like, I'm showing Hollywood that we can make these films kind of cheap, But if they give us those types of budgets that they have there, we can not only can we pay our crew like the right amount and still have plenty of room to burn on creating like entertaining and exciting things for Friday the 13th that people have never seen before.
Nice.
Man.
One last question for
Yeah.
you, and we'll wrap this up. But this is just one of the questions I've been trying to ask all Friday the 13th kind of alumni that I bump into at conventions and things like that. So, especially right around this time. If Sean Cunningham and Victor Miller were in a room together and Jason entered, which one would he kill first?
He would kill Sean for turning me into a snake.
See? You're the first person to actually answer it honestly. So far, all I've gotten are politically correct. Oh, he just killed both of them. And I'm like, I know he would kill both of them, but who would he kill first?
Oh, he would go after Sean for blowing him up.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that first, and then he would. I don't know what he would do to Victor. I just think he would go after Victor for keeping him from continuing his video game and doing all this other stuff that happened. So Victor would still get it for not being. I mean, it's just I don't know the whole thing. I really want beyond just the legal side of it. Like I know that each of them want to get paid. It's the money thing. I get it. The credit. How about the fact that these two used to be friends?
Yeah.
They came together and they made this movie as friends in 1979 when they didn't have any money and they were scrambling to get stuff done and they never knew it was going to be what it was going to be and they were just trying to make a movie and it went out of control. And neither Sean or Victor had anything to do with what came after. Sean just gave the rights away. The Mancusos took over. Steve Miner really created Jason as we knew it.
Right.
Joe Zito brought more to it. Tom McLaughlin brought more to it. This is the product of so many people working together over a span of 30 years. It's not just down to Sean and Victor. No. It's not just them. No. Credit to Sean. He's the one who put that ad in Variety. Without him doing that, we don't have any of this. And I think Victor realizes that. I think Victor knows deep down that without Sean, none of this is possible. But I think Sean deep down knows that he couldn't write that script either. So these are two friends that had to work together to make this happen. And even though I side on the side that like someone has to acknowledge that Sean was the one who raised the money. He secured the thing. He came up with the title. He told Victor what to write. We all know that. We've all seen the behind the scenes. He's the one who directed it. He's the one who produced it. He's the one who got distribution for it. And then he's the one who sold it. And he's the producer. And that's what happens. That's why producers get paid what they get paid, because they're the entire time. Victor wrote the script, handed in the script, and moved on to his next job. And he said, I'm good. I'm good with this stuff. I wrote this movie. It is what it is. And I'm moving on, whatever. And then it made money and it made more money and it made more money. And Sean got rich and Victor continued working. He only saw checks from part 1. He didn't get checks for part 2 and part 3 and part 4 and part 5. And I can understand why he would feel slighted for that, because that's his character. He's the one who came up with the name Jason Voorhees. He's the one who had that boy jump out of the lake. If the boy doesn't jump out of the lake at the end, we don't have any more of these films. So you have to recognize that they both gave that major contribution, and it all starts with them working together because they had done that from working when, Here Come the Tigers and they didn't do Last House on the Left together, but it's all stemming from that. And often in this business, we get so hard-headed about what we've done and what our credit is and how much we should be paid and what we're owed and what we're worth and all this stuff. And it gets in the way of our friendships. It gets in the way of our relationships. And, at the end of the day, I think the saddest part about this is not only the film being shut down, it's the fact that these two guys who were best friends and who worked on these movies and created this movie together are at odds. And I hope at the end of it, when it comes time to mediation and they have to sign this thing, that not only can they sign something and get over this, but they can realize that they created something special. And even though that both of them wanted to go on in their careers and create movies that weren't Friday the 13th, and they wanted to go do I know Sean wanted to go make musicals, and Victor ended up writing for soap operas and writing other things and writing more in-depth and socially conscious stuff. And they really I don't think either of them are really that ecstatic about Friday the 13th. They just know that it's the livelihood that allows them to live the life and secure their family and do that stuff. And I respect that. But it's about time that they came together and they realized that this feud is hurting more than just each other. And they're not going to make any money if there are no new films. And why make money on just one film when they can come talk to me and I can make them a series and multiple films and I can make them a lot of money and I can keep their families fed until the end of time, which is probably about 2050. So at this
At
rate,
this rate, yes.
Yeah,
at this rate. So let me help you. Like, if you don't understand the films and you don't understand what we are and you don't understand why we love the film or how it became popular, we do. So help us help you.
Yeah.
Like, you grew us, you made us. We're the product of your thing. All of us here, we bought the game. We probably all invested in the game in some way, shape, or form. Even if we bought it, our names are in the credits at the end. We're here because they created this thing, and we see them as heroes. And it hurts us to see our heroes fighting. And I wish more than anything that they would find that common ground and realize, especially after 2020 and all the shit that we've been through, that there are more important things in life, and there's no reason to carry this on. And it all comes with letting it go. And, I've feuded with people, like even making fan films. There's been fan film feuds that I think have been pretty public. But, in the last year, I think a lot of us who have been in those feuds and have gone after each other for various reasons, have reached out and been like, listen, that was stupid. Like, we were all started in the same place. We're all doing this for the same reason, because we want to tell stories. I respect you. You respect me. We're not trying to outdo each other. I mean, we're challenging each other to do better. I mean, Never Hike Alone set a bar, and now everyone's trying to hit it. And if they don't hit it, fans hit them for that. Or they feel like, oh, well, Never Hike Alone was this, and I want more of that. So then they get that film come out, and they say Never Hike Alone. And it's like, fine. That's what Friday the 13th fans do. Don't take offense to it. And it's hard. I mean, it's a hard realization to do it, because it isn't the responsibility we thought we were going to have as fan filmmakers, but it came upon us. And a lot of us screwed up. And I think that as the more fan filmmakers that are coming out there, and the kind of the leading films that are coming out with the feuds that we've had, we've all reached out to each other behind the scenes and kind of squashed the beefs and been like, how hard was that? And I can't tell you, like, the feeling that I had when I was able to have these conversations with people, and for them too, of being like, oh, I don't have to worry about this anymore. I don't have to like walk on eggshells when somebody asks me about a film, or like, I don't got to dance around a question because there's a personal thing going on. You know what I mean? Now we can finally just be there for each other and realize that if all the fan films are working together and we're building each other up and we're pushing each other forward, and fan films are getting more popular and more popular and more popular, well, that's more of a chance for all of us to be involved later on in the series at some point in time. But it's also more of a celebration for fans to come together, because the more united we are, and the more united we are as a fan base, then that's just going to show the studios and the rights holders and Sean and Victor that it's time to end this. Like, if we can heal our own community and we can all come together to say one thing, then let it be, we want more Friday the 13th. And I've been trying to figure this out, and we can't do it now because of COVID. But one day, if this keeps going on, I'd like to organize a 5 million Jason march, where we all dress up in our Jason cosplays and just march on Warner Brothers and Sean's house and Victor's house, and just all standing out there just saying, we want Jason.
Yeah.
And if we can somehow organize that, if someone's better at doing that stuff than me and they watch this, please reach out and help me do it. If we can do it virtually. But I think it's time that, like, with all the things going on in the world, obviously there's more important stuff. But you know what? We all love Friday the 13th, and we got to pass our time anyway. I think it's time that fans all came together and we all rallied and we kept that cry. If they can change, Sonic the Hedgehog's face, and we can get a Snyder cut of one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Can we get a 13th Friday the 13th and a TV series and more toys? I think we can. We're a big enough fan base. And like I said, like, Never Hike Alone in this whole series, yeah, we raised $100,000 with 2,000 people. There's a lot more than 2,000 Friday the 13th fans out there. And if more than 2013, if 5,000, 10,000 people showed up and just gave $5 just for a credit in the film, and we'll have 15-minute long credits, but I'll have a $200,000 budget.
Right.
And then I can do some damage.
Yeah.
Then I can really create some stuff. Then the training wheels are off. Like, now I'm flying high and doing it. And I think that that's the momentum I wanted to build with Never Hike Alone, with Never Hike in the Snow, going into Never Hike Again, Jason Takes Crystal Lake, and Final Hike. I need the Friday the 13th community behind me like never before. I need everybody. Like, if we're going to get this done, it's going to take everybody. I can't rely on 2,000 people to give me all this money, because it's a lot. And I don't want to take money out of people's pockets in a time when money's not there. Like, I'd rather a lot more people give a little than a few people give a lot. And I don't mind when one person comes in and gives a lot and wants to be an EP or a producer or an associate producer. I think that's really cool to get a real cool look behind the scenes. We brought on an EP who was a 16-year-old kid. His parents bought him this EP perk as his birthday present.
Nice.
And he got a chance to come on set and watch us work and see Jason kill somebody and, see me walk around in costume and see the work, because he wants to be a filmmaker and he wants to see what it's like. And we run our sets like real films. I mean, we have an AD department, we have different departments, we have protocol, we follow our set is run exactly like they run the set on The Rookie. So he got to see it, firsthand and got that experience. And now I've seen him, invest in more fan films and other fan films and wanting to pursue his own like acting career and producing and writing and filmmaking career. So it's cool. And it's like, it's all through the fans, and it's all the fans kind of coming together and doing it. And I can't tell you how many fans have built us props that we use in the film. Became friends with Bill Hunt, who was a big effects artist on Jason Goes to Hell. He designed and built us the new Pamela head that we use in the movie. We replaced our old Pamela head, which when you shot it close up really didn't hold up. It was better from afar.
Yeah.
And so Bill did that. He also did all of our concept work for Never Hike in the Snow. I released one of the images the other day. I'll be releasing more images over time. And then once the film comes out, I can really show you some stuff. Because he helped design it and like helped set Nora on the right path to do all the stuff that she built. So it's a crazy little network that we have now. And the fact that like I have basically the same firepower as a small studio as, anywhere in Hollywood, for Friday, built for making more Friday the 13th. And hopefully as this continues on and I have the opportunity, like I am attached to a movie right now that we're in development on and we're trying to get made. Obviously COVID's slowing everything down, but I want to make original stuff too. But I mean, Womp Stomp Films right now is built to get this series made. And if we can do it through the studio level and we can, save some money for the fans, you know what I mean? That they don't have to fund it. They can just show up and buy a ticket and come out later on. That's cool. I would even advocate to the movie, like, hey, can I get a couple more kills if I crowdfund? Can I get a little bit more of the budget if like I can crowdfund on the side while we're also doing this? And we get I think that would be cool. Imagine the 13th film. They have a $2 million budget, but then they put it on Kickstarter, like an actual studio film saying you can get your name in the credits. Like that would be the coolest thing in the world.
There's another $2 million minimum right there.
Yeah, there's a million people giving you $5. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe there's 500,000 or something like that. But to get, that would be special for a series that goes 13 films and to have the 13th one be really, really special. And then having that end credit, like celebrate the last 40 years of existence of all these fans that it's accumulated over 40 years. That would be something really cool. And I think unique. And it would also add to our budget and our ability to do stuff and make stuff for fans and like invest more in stuff. That's the way I see it. Every dollar I make, anytime I come out on top, if I have a couple $100 or I have a couple $1,000, it's like, what can I do? What are fans asking for? Like one time it's just, getting more posters and putting those out there and bringing that and letting people get more stuff because they asked for it. Or it was making a music video. It was like, oh, I got a couple grand. Like we can build some stuff and go do this. And so like that paid for the trip and to get out there and shoot it and make it. And like, so I always see it as like, it would be nice to get into a position where I'm getting paid to do this. But in the meantime, like as long as I can pay my bills and I have enough time to work and pay my rent and stuff like that, I don't need the extra things in life. I just want more money for my movie. This is like a really expensive hobby and I want to keep making it better and I want to keep getting as a filmmaker. And that's really where my love and passion comes from for this franchise is making Friday the 13th better and also becoming a better filmmaker with each film that I make.
Nice.
Fuck, man.
Thank you for your time. Can't really say any more about that. We really appreciate that you come on. I know you've been making these tours for the last 3 years now. So we really
well, it's fun.
Yeah.
And I love reaching out and talking to people and talking. I mean, you guys were the friends I never had in high school. You know what I mean? I didn't have the lunch table where we nerded out over Friday the 13th. Like
we're here now.
Yeah. So it's really cool. And I really, I really appreciate it. So is that the Jason Goes to Hell Army shirt?
Yeah.
Is that from the?
Yeah. From Hearts of Darkness.
We're backers on that one too. Yeah.
Great. And I do an interview in that one. It's fun.
Yeah, that's what Adam was saying not too long ago.
Yeah, I tell Adam how he ruined my childhood.
He didn't go that far, but he said he had some real brutal honest truth for me. So,
yeah, well, I mean, I met Adam and like I love Adam. Like he's like I consider him a mentor. He's someone I can lean on if I have a question or something like that. And it wasn't. I mean, I also heard Adam's story. I mean, Adam, like I felt more confident in saying the things that I felt about Jason Goes to Hell because I know what Adam really wanted to make. And Adam is a big Friday the 13th fan. And the original film that he pitched and said that he wanted to make is a lot better than what Jason Goes to Hell is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to spoil any of it because it's the reason why the documentary is getting made, and it's a part of it. And I can't wait for that moment to have, because again, it's like,
I think that's our question to him in the documentary is, what would you have done if Sean hadn't said, get rid of that fucking mask? How would the movie have been different? So,
well, it was really cool. I'll just say that. And as a fan, I had a moment with him where it was equal joy and sadness, because it was joy knowing that for all these years, I thought, oh, the people who made that movie didn't know what they were doing because I didn't know them and I didn't know what they were doing. The person who was supposed to make that movie knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, the exact story he wanted to tell. And it was very much a story done by a Friday the 13th fan.
Right.
And ultimately, that's why I tell Sean, like, thank you for creating the series, but please don't make any more, because your heart's not in it. And the things you want to see with this character is not what the fans want to see. Yeah. And it's no offense to him as a filmmaker, because he's gone on and made other things and he can produce other things. It's just let Friday the 13th fund those things. Let Friday the 13th be your cash cow to go make those movies that you really want to make. And the fact that he came in and made Adam do that really kind of it's the events that set this whole thing into motion. But you know what? Without Jason Goes to Hell, we probably don't have Never Hike Alone. If they make the film that we all wanted to see back in 1993, I'm not inspired to make my own now, because I have that gratification and that closure that I've always wanted. The reason why I'm here doing this today is because I'm looking for closure with Jason. And I'm sick of waiting for the studios to give me that closure. I'm going to close the book myself. And I'm going to tell my own story the way I've always wanted to tell it. And the fact that fans are on board is just an echo of the fact that it's coming from the voice of a Friday the 13th fan who knows what they're doing. Yeah. And it's preying on all those things that inside of us, like these scenes and these moments and these things we've always thought of that we've never seen on screen. Like, I have those too. And I think eventually you're going to see some of those things coming. Like, you're going to see scenes in these films. You're like, I swear to God, I've seen this in my head at least once. I've thought about this at least a dozen times. Like, I've always wanted to see this on the film. Like, even anyone who's ever wanted to see Jason use a bow and arrow, it was just like, I want to see him use it. I just don't want to see him pick it up and fire it. I want to make a moment out of it, like slow motion and like really building it up and all this stuff. Like, really like amplify the kill. Like don't make a kill scene, make a kill sequence. You know what I mean? Like, build the shit out of it. And so that's really where, it comes from, that love of being, these are the things I always wanted to see. And I think that because we've all had similar experiences in some way, shape, or form, even though we have different likes and dislikes, that we all kind of share some common things. And that's what I focus on, is I try to focus on the things that no matter what film you agree on is the best, there's a through line through all those films that echoes through all those films, that if you focus down on those core elements and you get rid of all the noise, the things that distract you from everything else, that you can continue to tell the stories in the way that like really kept us going through the storyline. And that's why it feels broken. It feels like those core elements that we saw as Friday the 13th broke at the end of 8. Jason Goes to Hell broke that stream, and the stream has gone out in 50 million directions ever since. And it hasn't been the same. And so now Never Hike Alone in this series is an attempt to get back to that core thing that brings us to these films. And hopefully, I'm able to ride that line and control that energy and bring forth what fans have been asking for over 30 years.
Yeah. Do it.
We wish
keep doing it. Trying.
We wish you all the luck in the world with this, and definitely hope that we can't wait to see Never Hike in the Snow, which drops on Tuesday, October 13th. Check it out. It'll be available on YouTube. Yeah. Get ready.
I know. I'm working on it right now. I got a cut. Like I said, I got a color session today. We're doing all our finalization over the next 2-3 days to do the final export, do the testing. I'm going to listen to it on all different speakers and then go in with my last round of notes and say, okay, here's what we got to fix, and then upload it over the weekend, do all the things I need to do for that. And then, cross my fingers and hope you guys like it as much as Never Hike Alone.
Absolutely. Definitely listen to those footsteps. So
yeah. Check them out. You're gonna love the first few.
Vincent, can't thank you enough for joining.
Definitely. And listen, when you're getting ready to start ramping up for the next story, buddy, let's get you back on here. We'll get the fucking word out, man.
Yeah, I think next spring is kind of what I'm thinking. It gives us the winter to regroup. It's holiday season, and I think that, you know, I don't want to put a crowdfund out there and take away from people's, you know, because I'm not going to be able to give you anything till next year anyway. So,
Right.
but people like my plan this year is to give everybody their Blu-rays in time for the holidays. Around that time, like late, you know, we'll start hopefully shipping them the first couple of weeks of December, and then get them to you by Christmas and Hanukkah and whatever else you celebrate, and then kind of probably the guys in the back end, everybody who came late, you're going to get your stuff in January. And then once that's all taken care of, and that is, I try to work with under the impression that we don't really run another crowdfund campaign for a new project until we completely close the book on the previous one. And so we want to close the book on that, get everybody satisfied. We have no more debts. We have no more obligations. We can just focus on the next entry. In the meantime, I have my other scripts for Never Hike Again that's already been written. My producers are breaking it down and budgeting it out. It will allow us this time to then figure out what that budget is actually going to be. We're going to go research we have to go find locations and things like that. And that's going to change our budget and what our estimates are. And once we get a full budget of what that looks like, we'll come out to you guys and say, here's how much we need. But because we have to run a crowdfund campaign, the film is going to be this much, and we need to raise this much to pay for all your stuff. So
right.
It's this much, you know, so we need another $50,000, but our goal is 75 because we need to pay for $25,000 worth of things. So one of the lessons that we learned real quick, just before I go, I know I've been going on forever, but we've learned more and more lessons since doing the Indiegogos, and I've actually cracked a few things on this latest one that have allowed us to skew our cost for the perks versus cost for the movie. And so I think I've tipped the needle from 55-45 to maybe 65-35, which is big. That's like an extra, you get an extra $15,000 out of that. And I can really stretch that budget. So I'm trying to hopefully kind of do that, and then also learn some lessons from the other one where we can get some stuff a little bit cheaper next time we go out. So we learned, like, hopefully we can add more value and not be so handcuffed by the crowdfunding process, which is really time consuming and expensive. And if anybody's going to do a crowdfund and do your own fan film, research it first, or send me an email. I have this whole thing I can send you that you can say, okay, now I'm prepared. Don't think that, like, if you raise $50,000 for your movie that you have $50,000 for your movie, because you don't. You have much less than you think. So that's really my spiel.
All right.
Wow, man.
Again, thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck on Never Hike in the Snow, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hey.